The need for Edo Guber to focus on curbing youth violence ahead of the 21 September polls coming up this year is the crux of what we're looking at today. And we have had issues about the imbroglio that, follow the incidents of the reinstatement of the embattled Deputy Governor of Edo State, Comrade Philip Shaibu. And there is need to look at what transpired, a few days back, and how to make sure that such an incident never reoccurs. The need to protect lives and property, the need to keep the temple safe, ahead of the 21st September polls. Joining me to x-ray this is a human rights lawyer, public affairs analyst, and social media influencer, Itote Damisa. Itote Damisa is joining me via Zoom from Abuja. Good morning, Damisa.
Good morning, Mr.
All right, good to see you today, and I hope you woke up very early to make sure that you are part of this interview.
Yes, very well.
All right, and I hope you woke up on the right side of the bed, Damisa.
Absolutely, I always do.
Now, you are an indigent of the state, Edo State, and what transpired a few days back, that brought about the challenges that were observed in Airport Road access in Benin City has brought a whole lot of concerns raised as regards the political parties in question, the PDP, the APC, and the need for us to eschew violence as electorates, as youths. What are your thoughts, and how do you see the imbroglio that followed the reinstatement of the embattled Deputy Governor, Comrade Philip Shaibu?
Okay, well, before I start, once again, thank you for having me on your program. Before I start, I want to quickly express my condolences to the Nigerian police. Of course, the family members of the Inspector Ako Onu over this unfortunate, demise, the mindless, the mindless and meaningless and spineless murder of that very fine police officer. And I want to use this platform as an activist to call on the Inspector General of Police to fish out the perpetrators of that dastardly and despicable act that transpired last Thursday. So it's rather very unfortunate that we are experiencing such incident in our political firmament at this stage. So once again, I express my condolence to the family and of course to the Nigerian police force. You see, the truth is that violence of any nature is should be out. No.
Okay, go ahead.
Have a democratic society. Okay, if we want to have a democratic society, democracy must not just be an end; it must also be a means to an end. Democratic values must be evolved over time. And I've argued on your platform, and in several fora, that the problem we have as a people, especially in Africa, is that we have strong men and weak institutions. And that is the problem we are having. That is just the truth. It's the basic and fundamental truth that we have strong men manning or presiding over weak institutions. And that is just the basic fact about it. So violence of every nature, in my view, should be condemned and should be seen as such by every reasonable Nigerian.
I would want to also get the responses of Anthony Hilebe, who is also a legal practitioner, via Zoom, Abuja. And when we are able to establish connectivity, we will be having his response. But let's come again to you, Damisa. You are a legal practitioner, of course. That is not in dispute. Now, we have issues of the youths always being involved, or politicians using youths as talks to, embark on their businesses at the detriment of the populace. Now, let's look at what transpired as regards the reinstatement of the deputy governor who was once impeached, but reinstated by the court, Comrade Philip Shaibu. Now, whose responsibility is it? Is it the responsibility of one who is in favor of the judgment of the court to enforce such judgment, or another, constituted body of authority?
Well, I am talking about the judgment. I think I'll take it from this angle of democracy and society as well. And my view is this: if we desire a society of peace, then we cannot achieve such society through violence. A society of peace, a society of tranquility can never be achieved. A society of law and order can never be achieved through violence. So that must be ascertained. Now, with respect to the judgment, I have taken my time to look at the CTC, the certified true copy of that judgment. And the judgment was clearly a declaratory judgment. Now, an average lawyer or even a law student of maybe fourth or second year understands the legal maxim, ubi jus, ibi remedium. That means when there is a right, there is a corresponding remedy to all right. So the question is simple. What right was the former government, the restated deputy governor was trying to enforce? He went to court, alleging that he was unjustly removed by the House of Assembly, and that his removal ran contrary to the ground norm. And he went to court and he got victory. Now, whose responsibility it is to enforce? Now, I concede to the argument that declaratory judgment, but that was a clear declaratory judgment, ordinarily, ought not to be enforced, ordinarily. But if you look at the drafters, because I said I've taken my time to look at the CTC of that judgment, the drafter of the prayers before the court, because the court is not a Father Christmas. The drafters of the prayer, of the relief sought now, they were very meticulous in their drafting. And that was why if you look at relief 5 of that order, of that judgment, it states very clearly that as at when Philip was removed, and as at now, the deputy governor, as at when he was called, of course, the restricted deputy governor, as at that there is no vacancy, that the office of the deputy governor of Edo State is not vacant. Then the next relief mandated, instructed the Inspector General of Police to immediately restore his security details. So while declaratory judgments may not immediately be enforced by plaintiff immediately, but they are ancillary relief that were sought, which every lawyer will look at it and know that those are executory judgments. So declaratory in the sense that the purported impeachment or the impeachment of the deputy governor was what? Against the law. That was declaratory. Now, what is the ancillary relief? Restore his security details, because there's no vacancy in the office of the deputy governorship of the governor of Edo State. So that becomes executory in nature. That becomes executory, and it is incumbent on him to step on his rights, because he said his rights was violated by his unlawful removal.
Damisa, can you hear me? Thank you. Thank you, Damisa Itote. While we expect Anthony Ehilebe to react to what you've said, but while we wait for that connectivity to be established, we would go into other issues that may not necessarily, cause the need for a reaction from the other side, because we are supposed to have, a reaction from the other side as regards what you just said. But let's keep it at this level where the former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan said, no politician's political ambition is worth the blood of any citizen, particularly any Nigerian. Now, what do you have to say about this? Because we keep having, politicians keeping their children far away from the polity of violence, while they constitute violence themselves. Now, how do you urge political parties, across board, politicians across board, to stick to the rule of the game, in order not to hit the fragile peace that we have in the state?
You see, I think that comment was made, if I remember very well, on January 8th, January 2015, during the preparatory stage to the presidential election of February 2015. You see, political actors must be mindful of the words they use. Because they say politics in itself is a war. Agreed. But the irony is that politics is war, but war of words is war without bloodshed. And that was why the respected Martin Luther King, in approaching his non-violence action, protestation during these days as an activist, declared that if we cannot persuade with our words, we will persuade with our acts. But those acts must in itself be in line with the law. I'm quoting Reverend Martin Luther King for blessed memory. So our action as political actors, our words as political actors, have a way of influencing the polity. And that is why you see that some people will take laws into their, some young people will take laws into their act. So we are encouraging, advising the current actors, political actors in those states, to ensure words, rhetorics that tend to incite. You see, I got disappointed in His Excellency Governor Baseki a few days ago over the clip. I think they come out to do some damage control. Where he declared, before young people were there, youths were there, different political stakeholders, that Edo State will burn, and indeed Nigeria will burn if they attempted to try what they did last Thursday. So those are words that are in itself inciting. And the truth is that those words are not just inciting, they are also treasonable.
Okay, but Damisa Itote, looking at what you just said, there has been a refuted statement in that regard by the Commissioner for Information of Edo State, Chris Naikai, where he said that the governor was quoted out of context. So we allow that settle because that has been refuted, that the governor was quoted out of context. And there is this challenge where we usually see statements being skewed by the other party or by the other side to use it to inflict pain or a setback on the party. Now, don't you think that could be a way of, rather degenerating into violence, and there is need for politicians to be careful in the statements they make? And of course, even if statements are made, there is need for politicians not to skew the statements or spin the statements to, create sentiments that will bring about violence. I think you should speak in this direction.
Yeah, well, I read the commissioner's statement, and for me, he's doing his job. Then, of course, Edo people and Nigerians are very smart. So we can read in between the lines. And it is good. I must commend the commissioner for attempting to refurbish or do some damage control over that clear. That comment from the governor wasn't him per se, as part of some other political happenings and all of that. And they've done damage control, which is good in itself, because it has doused the tension. To say I was quoted out of context, you can do all of that to do damage control. But rhetorics, political rhetorics, must be within the ambit. You saw when an aspirant or a candidate, now a former president, declared that the dogs and the baboon will be soaked in blood if elections are in his favor. I'm sure you can still remember. I don't need to call names. So, but you saw the aftermath of that declaration. So, politicians must be advised to speak within the ambit of the law. You don't have to become too desperate to lead the people. Now, if you make inflammatory statements, if you make inciting statements leading to violence, who do you govern? Now, when your state becomes ungovernable, who will be accused? Who will be held responsible? It is you. It's not the political leader. Now, if you make statements that are inflammatory and it leads to violence, or they lead to violence, who are you going to now lead? So that is why we must encourage our politicians to be mindful of the words they use. Why campaigning? Why on that podium? You must be mindful of it. And the youth, because this is about the youth, you must also be sensible that these politicians have their kids abroad, that these politicians, their kids do not attend rallies. In Stena Clan, you see families coming together to attend rallies. How many of them do you see in Nigeria? Because they have set machinery in place to possibly perpetrate violence. And so they've kept their kids, in safer places. So we must also, as young people, be mindful that you do not kill for any politician. You do not. You cannot do that.
Okay.
Because your life matters. If you do not value your life, your parents value you. If you are married, your wife values you, your children values you, and you have a future, a bright future. So we must also encourage our youth, to be very much aware of the antics of our politicians.
Okay,
Most of
Damisa
them
Itote.
do some of these things for selfish reasons. And yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, Damisa Itote, there's no need to belabor the issues that transpired. But by what you are saying, if we look at it critically, even in the video clips that have been circulated, you will see basically that, the pictures or the videos seem to feature one side, a place where, places where persons, supporting the embattled, reinstated Deputy Governor, Coming Philip Shaibu. And it didn't feature clips where the other side, was involved. And so some are asking the questions as in, what could have been the reason? Because you look at the need for us to, continue to credit that statement, that was said by the former President Goodluck Jonathan, and the need for every politician, even if it means you need to enforce the judgment of the court. Should that be done at the detriment of the peace or the fragile peace of the state? Because I believe if it was the former President, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, in the stead of the embattled deputy governor, such actions wouldn't have been taken.
Well, you can't say, because that may just be presumptive, in my view. Now, I think this is homosensical in my considered opinion, because this man alleged that his rights were breached, and he was justly removed. Now, let me paint a scenario. I was a tenant in an apartment, and I was unjustly evicted from that apartment. I became aggrieved. I went and sought reliefs, and I got those reliefs, asking me to return to the house for which I was illegally evicted. And I was coming. Should I be coming prepared to unleash violence in that same place? It is a question of common sense. The man got his judgment in Abuja, flew into Edo State. Those who are aggrieved, it is common sense that those who are aggrieved that he was returning to come and occupy the place for which he was rightly removed, or he was legally removed, sorry, they will feel aggrieved. So it is common sense for them to put some machinery in place to frustrate the fruit of his victory at the Federal High Court in Abuja. It's a matter of common sense. The man was coming to come and enjoy his possession, peaceful possession of what rightfully belonged to him, by virtue of the courts and by virtue of the vote he got in the last election. So for through a joint ticket. Should they be coming to come and perpetrate violence? It's a question of common sense, as I said earlier on. The man was coming peacefully in a celebratory mode.
Yeah, that means I thought if you got me rightly, I'm not trying to say that he acted wrongly or rightly, but I'm trying to tell you that commonsensically, one who wants to avoid bloodshed or who wants to avoid, agitations that will bring about a fragile peace being collapsed in the state, will rather forfeit his ambition in order to make sure that there is peace in the state. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, looking at what, the former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan did. Now, his style was different. He would have been able to litigate and also to make sure that he follows it to the logical conclusion in the court, to the apex, to show reason why he was not the, the candidate that won that election. But he didn't do all of this just because he saw that that would bring about a fragile peace being collapsed in the country. Now, don't you think that should have been followed in this process, knowing full well that the months left are already, very, very few, and basically the judgment gotten from the court also should suffice in order for us not to have the fragile peace being collapsed? Don't you think that should have been taken in the stead as in the position by the embattled deputy governor?
If we want to have a society that thrives, if we want to have an egalitarian society, a society for which our children will be proud of, we must be a people of rule of law. We must follow laws strictly as it is. What was the law or the right Philip was trying to enforce? He wasn't even trying to enforce any law in my view. He came to resume the obligation, because when there is a right, there is an obligation. He got the right. He is obligated to act on those rights. And he came to Benin to resume his office because the court said there was no vacancy. And should it have been coming armed with talks? No. That's what I'm saying. It was coming. So are you saying he shouldn't have exercised his right to have resumed as given to him by the courts and the good people of Edo State in the last governorship election? Are you saying? That's the question, because we are a society governed by rules. The rules of conduct, the rules of operation must be upheld strictly by all and sundry, by law, by the poor, by the rich, by everybody, by the governor and the governor. The rules must be upheld strictly. So what the deputy governor, the reinstated deputy governor, was coming to do was simply to come and resume a place where he was asked to go and vet illegally. So it is simple. You cannot sleep on your rights. Now, whether or not the issue of filing stay of execution and all of that those are arguments that, of course, maybe they want to also raise, that should have probably stayed behind and look at all the processes at the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court and all of that. But the court said there is no vacancy by virtue of Release 5 of that judgment. There is no vacancy. As far as the Edo governorship office is concerned, there is no Edo deputy governorship office is concerned. There was no vacancy.
Thank you, Damisa.
There cannot be lacuna. Lacuna can never be created. So he came and rightly resumed his office. That's my
Thank you, Damisa Itote. I hope you will oblige us next time on interviews in order to look at ways to, ameliorate the plight of Nigerians and, of course, Edo State in particular, the indigents, in order to...
We always be available.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Damisa, and I wish you a beautiful day ahead of you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Well, that's much we can take on that conversation.